let's be honest. There's a story being told in the dating world that only rich men win, that women are hardwired for hypergamy, to only date up. It's a frustrating and demoralizing narrative that says no matter how good of a guy you are, if your bank account doesn't hit a certain number, you're basically invisible. But what if that story is wrong? What if the men who are most successful with women aren't just the ones with the biggest bank accounts, but the ones who understand something much deeper about attraction? What if this idea of hypergamy has been twisted into something it was never meant to be? Today, we're going to figure out if hypergamy is an ancient biological instinct or a modern myth fueled by social pressure. We'll look at what science actually says, what history shows us, and most importantly, what it really takes for a man to be genuinely attractive in today's world. And the answer is a lot more empowering than you've been led to believe. This is about understanding the core of attraction and using it to build a life of real value. If you're ready to get past the noise and find out what really works, make sure you subscribe. We're cutting through the confusion today, and you won't want to miss it. So, let's start with the basics. What exactly is hypergamy? In simple terms, it means marrying up. It's a term social scientists use for when someone dates or marries a partner with a higher mating value, usually defined by things like wealth, social status, and education. When you hear people talk about hypergamy online, this is what they mean. The idea that women are always looking for partners who are superior to them in some way, especially financially. The story you hear online is often aggressive and absolute. It's the idea that women have a biological checklist and income is right at the top. It's the claim that women are only interested in the top 10% of men, leaving everyone else behind. This message is everywhere, and it creates a real sense of hopelessness for a lot of guys. It makes you feel like the game is rigged, that no matter how hard you work on your character or your fitness, none of it matters if you're not a millionaire. That frustration is valid because the message is so loud. But this modern, often weaponized definition is a huge oversimplification of a much more complex human behavior. To really get it, we have to look at where the term comes from. This isn't some new internet concept. The term has historical roots, often linked to rigid social structures. A classic example is the caste system in India, where marrying a daughter into a higher status family was a strategic move for social and economic survival. This kind of system was common in patriarchal societies, where women had little to no access to education, couldn't work, and were almost completely dependent on men for their security. Think about that for a second. The concept didn't start with a woman's preference for luxury. It was about a family's strategy for survival. It wasn't a choice between a guy with a good job and a guy with a great job. It was often the difference between security and poverty. So, you have the modern internet version of hypergamy, a cold, calculating female desire for wealth, and then you have its historical context. A survival mechanism born from systemic inequality. The truth is somewhere in the middle, and to find it, we have to ask a critical question. Is the drive to date up a hardwired biological instinct? Or is it a behavior shaped by the world we live in? This is where things get interesting, because the answer isn't a simple yes or no. It's a bit of both. Let's look at the two main arguments, starting with the one you've probably heard the most. The ancient instinct argument. The ancient instinct theory suggests that hypergamy is a natural part of our psychology, shaped by evolution. According to evolutionary psychologists, our survival for thousands of years depended on different mating strategies for men and women. Think of it as survival software coded into our ancestors' brains. For a man, reproductive success was a numbers game. His biological investment was small, so the best strategy to pass on his genes was to find multiple healthy, fertile partners. This is why men are often theorized to prioritize youth and health, signs of fertility. For a woman, the calculation was completely different. Her biological investment was huge. A 9-month pregnancy and the years of raising a vulnerable child meant her choice of partner was critical for her and her child's survival. In that environment, her survival software wouldn't prioritize a man's sense of humor. It would prioritize his ability to provide and protect. Could he hunt? Could he secure resources? Could he defend his family? These were life or death questions. A man's status and ability to get resources were direct signs of his competence. From this viewpoint, hypergamy isn't a gold-digging impulse, it's an ingrained survival strategy. It's the drive to find a partner who can provide stability and security. And studies across many cultures have shown that women, on average, tend to rate good financial prospect and ambition higher than men do when looking for a long-term mate. This evolutionary programming, the theory goes, doesn't just vanish because we have smartphones and 401ks. The software is still running. So when a woman is attracted to a successful or ambitious man, it's not always about the Lamborghini. Those things are modern symbols for the underlying traits that have signaled value for millennia: competence, intelligence, and the ability to generate resources. This argument is powerful because it feels intuitive, but it's only half the story. Now, let's flip the coin. The sociological argument says that what we call instinct is often just a logical reaction to social and economic inequality. For most of history, women were systematically barred from owning property, getting an education, or having careers. Their entire social and economic standing came from the man they married. In that world, was marrying up a preference or a necessity? It was the only way to get a better life. To say it's just an innate preference ignores the reality of their limitations. This is the point that changes the whole conversation. If hypergamy is a survival strategy that comes from a lack of female autonomy, what happens when women gain that autonomy? What happens when they have their own education, careers, and money? The data shows a clear shift. As women's economic and educational equality increases, traditional forms of hypergamy tend to decline. For instance, the long-standing pattern of men marrying women with less education has been flipping. In the US, the share of couples where the wife is more educated than the husband has steadily risen. One 2014 study noted that for marriages between 2000 and 2004, 29% of wives were more educated than their husbands, a noticeable increase from previous decades. This doesn't mean resource potential becomes totally irrelevant. But it proves hypergamy isn't a fixed biological law. It's a flexible strategy that adapts. As women become less dependent on a man for survival, their priorities can shift toward things like mutual respect, emotional connection, and shared values. This is where the rich men win narrative starts to look shaky. However, the picture isn't uniform. Some recent research suggests that in places like Latin America, hypergamy has actually increased because fewer people are marrying partners with the same education level, leading to more unequal pairings, both up and down. Other sources note that the underlying preference for status can persist even as what defines status changes. So, the idea that women are universally programmed to find the richest man is a modern myth built on a misreading of history. The truth is far more complex, and for most men, far more optimistic. So, what does this all mean for you? If hypergamy isn't the simple, brutal rule we've been told it is, what actually makes a man attractive today? This is where we get to the solution. The key is to understand what money has always been a symbol for, and then build those core traits directly. The man who wins in the modern world isn't just the rich man. He's what we'll call the new high-value man. Let's be clear, resources still matter. Financial stability is attractive because it signals competence and responsibility. But it's just one signal among many, and its importance changes when a woman is financially independent herself. A high-value woman, one with her own goals, income, and life, isn't looking for a provider in the old-fashioned sense. She can provide for herself. She's looking for a partner. She's looking for a man whose life demonstrates his value, not just his wallet. For many women today, hypergamy is less about dating up financially and more about finding someone who uplifts and complements their life. The new high-value man shows his worth through his character and actions. The core qualities that money used to signal, competence, security, and ambition, are now communicated more directly. 1. Purpose and ambition. This is the big one. Women aren't necessarily attracted to a man's current bank balance, but to his drive and passion. A man on a mission, building a business, mastering a skill, pursuing a creative project, is incredibly attractive. It shows he has his own internal engine, and he's the star of his own movie. This ambition signals future potential, which is often more compelling than current wealth. 2. Emotional intelligence. This is a huge factor in modern attraction. In the past, a man's value was in protecting against physical threats. Today, his value is increasingly found in his ability to navigate the emotional world. Can you handle stress? Can you communicate your feelings? Can you be a source of calm in a chaotic world? A man who is emotionally grounded provides psychological safety, which is deeply attractive and essential for a healthy relationship. 3. Leadership and decisiveness. This isn't about being a domineering jerk. True leadership is having a vision for your life and the confidence to act on it. It's about being able to make decisions and solve problems. When you go on a date, do you have a plan? Or do you ask, I don't know. What do you want to do? A woman wants to feel that the man she's with is capable of navigating life's challenges. This inspires confidence and security. 4. Social confidence. This is about being comfortable in your own skin. Can you hold a conversation? Can you interact with her friends and family with ease? Can you create a fun, positive vibe around you? A man with social confidence shows that he understands the world and his place in it. His value is confirmed by the way others respond to him. These are the traits that signal high value today. They are the bedrock of attraction, because you can't fake them. You can't buy emotional intelligence or inherit a sense of purpose. You have to build them. And that's fantastic news, because it means your value as a man is completely within your control. So how do you start building these traits? Forget get-rich-quick schemes. Focus on these 3 pillars. 1. Find your mission. Every man needs a purpose that gets him out of bed in the morning, something bigger than just making money or meeting women. This could be mastering an instrument, building a business, or getting into peak physical shape. When you're locked in on your purpose, you become naturally more interesting. Your self-esteem becomes rooted in your own efforts, and you project an energy of ambition that is universally attractive. Stop chasing women and start chasing excellence. 2. Develop emotional intelligence. This is a skill you can learn. Start by practicing self-awareness. When you feel angry or anxious, don't just react. Pause. Ask yourself, what am I feeling and why? Learn to sit with your emotions without letting them control you. Then, practice empathy. When you're talking to people, listen to understand, not just to reply. This ability to connect on a deeper level is what separates the men from the boys. 3. Build social confidence through action. Confidence is a byproduct of competence. You don't get confident by thinking about it in your room. You get it by taking action. Make it a goal to have small, positive social interactions every day. Smile at the barista. Ask the cashier how their day is going. Join a class that forces you to interact with new people, like public speaking, dance, or a team sport. Each small success builds on the last, gradually rewiring your brain to see social situations as opportunities, not threats. Building yourself into this new high-value man isn't a quick fix, but it is a fulfilling path, and it's the one that leads to genuine success with high-quality women who will be attracted to you for who you are, not just what you have. So, do only rich men win? The answer is a definitive no. Hypergamy is a real phenomenon, but it's widely misunderstood. It is not a simple female mandate to only date the wealthiest men. It's an ancient survival instinct that is evolving as our society evolves. It was once a strategy born of necessity. But as women have gained their own independence, Their priorities have shifted. Today, the core drivers of attraction are the same, but the signals have changed. True high value is no longer just a number in your bank account. It's a measure of you as a man, your ambition, your emotional stability, your leadership, and your character. Focusing only on getting rich to attract women is like trying to become a great artist by only buying the most expensive paintbrushes. You're confusing the tool with the skill. The truth is, you have the power to become the kind of man that high-quality women are drawn to, regardless of your starting point. It requires you to stop worrying about the rules of the game and start focusing on improving yourself as a player. It requires you to build a life of purpose, strength, and integrity. So, the question isn't do only rich men win? The real question is, are you building a life that someone would be excited to be a part of? I'm curious to hear your take. Is hypergamy a myth or a reality in your world? Let me know in the comments.